Alright, hello and welcome back to I'm so stupid. No, it's fine. We're using this. It's fine. It's a perfectly fine intro. Shut up. But yes, like I was saying before, I kept interrupting myself. We are doing another live discussion today, and today I'm going to be talking about the relevance of attack power in the game. Now, we all know that the most relevant way that you reduce your opponent's life points to 0, not counting like Chamber and Trickstars, because fuck those decks, is by using attack power, actually, attacking your opponent, reducing their life points to 0 that way. But life points don't matter in this game. That's just a fact of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2017 is life points don't matter until there's 0. So until you hit that big 0, it doesn't matter what you're at, 100, 200, 16,000, it doesn't matter as long as they don't hit 0. That's why things like Strike and Scolding, they have high costs, but it doesn't matter because if you're winning the game, it doesn't matter how many life points you have left as long as it's greater than 0. So following that logic, you'd think that attack power really doesn't matter. But attack power, the higher the attack power, the faster you're getting your opponent's life points to 0. Things like Blue Eyes, they're big 3,000 attack point attackers. 2 of those, all of a sudden your opponent, if they activate a Solemn Warning, they're dead. A few of those and a little bit more from something else, some swinging over something else, then they can't activate Strikes, they can't activate Scoldings, Cosmo couldn't pay life points. The quicker you get your opponent to lower life points, the less effects they're going to be able to activate, at least in, most relevant decks. Most decks will run things like Strike, just things of that nature. Your opponent can't do any strategies that involve, them attacking into something, because then they lose life points. Just things like that. The closer you get your opponent to 0, the less they're actually going to be able to do, and the more cautiously they're going to have to be able to play, so it it gives you more advantage. Also, once your opponent's life points are close to low, say they only have 1,600 life points left, if they put a monster with only 1,400 attack power on the board in attack position, you could just summon a big 3k monster, which, let's be honest, most decks have, and just ram right over that for a game. Just, instead of actually, outing, say, some other problem cards they have on the board, you can just pick and choose your attacks to push through for game that way. So that's one way that attack power is relevant, both in getting your opponent to 0 faster and being able to, push forward. It gives you more options to actually push forward for game. Also, while we're talking about monsters with big attack points, it's always worth mentioning that it takes more resources to get over these monsters. Think back to when Blue Eyes was the best deck. Things like, I believe it's one of the stones, I forget the name exactly, I'll put it right there. I'll put it right there. Now we're pointing in the right direction. Right there is where it'll be. Right direction, all that stuff. One of these stones summons a Blue Eyes or Blue Eye. I believe it can summon Spirit as well from deck, but summons a Blue Eyes monster from the deck. So, even though it's during the end phase, you can't make a rank 8 play with it. You can't really do anything with it. It's still there on the board. And I've had, just like yesterday, I was playing someone online, and they just end phase used 3 of those and summoned 3 Blue Eyes onto the field. And although that's not doing anything immediately, although it's not an immediate threat on my turn, like it's not a negate from my Felgrand or anything, it's relevant because if I don't out that next turn, they can game me like that. They already have everything on board to game that. So you'll oftentimes have to use up things like Castel. Say now with Link format, you'd have to use maybe like a Firewall bounce to actually get those off the field. So you're using up resources not to actually get over your opponent's, not to out your opponent's back row or anything like that, but just to get over the sheer brute force of these monsters. And that's somewhere else that attack power becomes relevant. It's something that really, I think, pushed Blue Eyes a little bit further, was the fact that all the monsters were so strong that you had to use resources just to get over their attack power. Some more good examples of this, if we take a look at the format where ABC and Metal Foes were arguably the top decks. I was playing Infernoids then. Don't play that deck anymore, fuck that deck. think now. But back in the format where they were arguably the best decks, ABC players were still playing Photon Thrasher at that point. And although it's just basically a free level 4, kind of like a gold and silver gadget kind of thing, it actually had a lot of relevance in the fact that it was 100 attack points stronger than Magispector, that's the name, than Magispector Unicorn Kirin, which was obviously one of the most oppressive cards at the time, and it's obviously banned now. But that was actually important because that forced out the bounce of Kirin. So that got the Kirin back to the hand, it puts the Thrasher back in the hand, but you can just special it again, and then you go off main phase 2. So you lose your battle phase, but you don't have to, you can, go off and make your play without, fear of interruption from your opponent's cards. So free high attack monsters like Photon Thrasher have relevance in that, also in being able to swing over, bounces, negates, things like that. And that falls well into another point, which is the attack power of monsters that have disruption or negation effects. Infernoids is probably the best example of this. Obviously they have Deviati and Anuku, which respectively negate monster effects and spell and trap negates after they wipe everything else. So they set you up pretty good to obviously stall your opponent out. And they can do this because they're each also respectively 2,900 and 3,000 attack points. So they each sit on the board, and obviously you have to use resources to either bait the effect or swing over them. So that, something very relevant about them is you can't just summon something and swing over them like you could with, say, a normal summon Decatron that sent one of them to gain their effects. And that's one of the faults of Void Feast. One of the things that makes it less strong, despite it still being a very insane card, is the fact that the Decatrons are, I believe, 200 defense, 500 attack, and that doesn't change. So you can actually just, normal summon something, swing over the one that's most relevant to you, and then go off main phase 2 again, kind of like the same thing with Thrasher and Kirin. So attack power, or just, overall attack or defense of monster negates is, or not monster negates, but monsters that have disruption effects, is actually very relevant in the game. And obviously the ones with higher stats are harder to out and have a higher chance of actually making your opponent use up their resources, and then you get the entire value out of your card. Attack power is also a good thing that Konami can use to balance cards with somewhat unbalanced effects. The attack power of Dark Law is something that's relevant a lot of times. Obviously, Dark Law is 2,400 attack, which is substantial, but it's not over the top. Obviously, it's not 3K, it's not like, a usual boss monster. Dark Law is just a blanket effect that can shut out entire decks. But, it's not anything massive attack power-wise. There's a lot of monsters you can get out that can actually just swing directly over that. So instead of having to use up resources to get over it, because it's taking away resources, generally most decks, benefit from having Grave. Because it's taking away the resources you use to actually get that monster out, generally speaking, you're not actually using them up to get rid of it because you can just swing over it from there. So it actually kind of balances the card a little bit. And anything like Dark Claw would be insane. Like, imagine if Dark Claw was 3,000 attack points. The card would be fucking insanity. You'd have to crash your blue eyes with that shit. That'd be, and just how it could elicit. That wasn't like me. That wasn't a planned reaction or anything. That was just straight up like I thought of Dark Claw with 3,000 attack and I got scared. So attack power is relevant again in that kind of sense that it can actually be a balance to cards. There's a plethora of cards in this game that have insane effects but very weak stats. So I think I about hit all the points I wanted to discuss in this video. My whole list I have right here out a year review. I pretty much covered everything on that, so I think we're about good to call this one here. The point of these videos is kind of, although there isn't say anything strictly gained from these videos, it's not a video where I'm discussing a card or straight out discussing the overall power of two decks, anything that seems to give an obvious advantage by you watching it. I think there is some relevance in these just general discussion videos as a deeper understanding of the game, because I know a lot of more casual players or newer players actually are subscribed to the channel. And understanding the game at a deeper level and thinking about these concepts is actually a good way to get better at the game, because it gives you that deeper thought of, you know, being able to look at a board that you're gonna try to get over, or, you know, something like that, and being able to analyze the situation to the fullest extent, because you've covered concepts like these before. And that's kind of why I like to do these videos. I don't know why I'm gesturing a lot in this one, and the camera's set up so you just see my hands here, and it kind of looks like I'm like holding up a pair of imaginary tits or something. I'm just gonna stop now. Anyway, that rambling out of the way, usual plugs at the end of the episodes, links down in the description to both of these. I have my Discord server, which is a cool place to chill, hang out, talk about Yu-Gi-Oh!, anime, among other things. We have some different sections for trading, just for general discussion, things like that. I'll also have a link to my Patreon down there as well, which will gain you extra jewels. If you support me there, will gain you extra jewels that don't make it into deck profiles or the worst deck of all time series. This isn't any extra content. I'm making this as just stuff that, you know, that didn't make it to the final cuts, that I decided I'd give to people who can support me there, but no usual content will ever be gated off. If you can't support me, it's completely, you know, fine. I understand not everyone has anything to give, but if you do just have a little bit, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm out of breath. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see ya later.